The city of Harmonia slept under a clear sky, and the ocean lay still like a sheet of dark glass. On the edge of the water, the orbital listening array blinked in calm, steady lights. Inside, a small team of scientists watched their screens with tired eyes and warm cups of tea. They had waited years for a call from the stars. They joked that the sky was shy. They told each other that patience was also a kind of courage. Dr. Mira Chen was the first to look up. A thin line appeared across her display. It was not noise. It was not a glitch. It was a pattern, clean and sure, with the gentle rise and fall of a voice that had crossed 1,000 lifetimes. "I think," she said, and then she stood. "No, I know. It is a beacon." The room grew very quiet. Someone lowered a cup to a table with a careful hand. Another person reached for the volume and turned it down, as if the signal might hear them breathe. The sound was not music, not words, not anything the human ear could sing. But it held meaning all the same, like a distant lighthouse seen through fog. They called their lead. He called the agency. The agency called the world. By sunrise, every antenna on Earth had turned to face the same point in the black. The message was old, very old. So old that the light of its first shout had passed oceans of time before touching Earth. But it was still strong. It said, "Help." It said, "We remember you." It said, "Only you can wake the gate." No one agreed how to read it at first. Some said it was a trap. Some said it was a test. Some said it was a gift. But the world had changed again and again since the old days of fear. Humans had learned to pause before they shouted. They had learned to ask before they fought. And they had built ships. The Deathworlder fleet was not a name humans loved for themselves. It was a name given by others long ago, when the first scouts met the first alien traders at the edge of a blue comet. The traders had studied Earth and shook their heads. They saw storms, volcanoes, deserts, wild oceans, bacteria that would have poisoned their own blood. They saw a home where trees fought for light and animals learned to be clever, or to be fast, or to be both. They said only those born on a death world would grow like this. Humans smiled at that and said, "We call it home." Now the fleet woke from its calm sleep. Ports opened. Towers rose. The ships looked like spears and like whales and like birds. Their hulls were strong, but their purpose was gentle. The captains repeated the law, no harm. No pride, no first strike. Help first. Leave no one behind. Listen to the quiet, then act. Admiral Imani Saleh stood on the bridge of the flagship Lark ascending. She watched Earth turn beneath her, a blue and white jewel not so fragile as it looked, and then turned her eyes outward, toward the last echo of the beacon. Her voice was soft, but the crew felt strength in it. "We go because someone asked," she said. "We go because we can. We go with open hands." The fleet did not roar. It unfolded. Drives woke with a glow like dawn behind clouds. A path appeared on the screens, calculated from the age of the signal, from the drift of dust, from the map of slow stars, and the ships followed it into the quiet between suns. They carried scientists and medics, translators and builders, farmers with seed vaults, teachers with libraries. It was not a war armada. It was a promise. On the way, they were not alone. Word spread through the networks that tied the galaxy like threads in a loom. Ships of the core races slid from their ports with cautious grace. The Velard Commons sent 2 spindle barges, tall and silver. The slow, thoughtful Orin glided in their leaf-like cruisers. A small convoy of traders from the Bright Belt drifted nearby, curious and ready to sell tea. Even the Keth, who trusted few, sent an observer pod that never blinked. There was a meeting in the deep, inside a hollow of quiet space. It was a place with no planet, no heat, no noise. It felt like a cathedral. The ships hung there like lanterns in a dark hall. The core races hailed the humans and gently asked them to wait. Their words were polite. Their eyes were measuring. Ambassador Ravasol from the Velard Commons spoke first. "This signal is ancient," she said. "It is linked to a machine you call the gate. Our law says, do not touch the things that sleep. We propose a council. We propose delay." Admiral Saleh listened. Dr. Mira Chen stood beside her, newly come up from Earth, cheeks still pink from the climb. Mira did not speak. She watched the data flow across her screen. She saw a low pulse under the main signal, a wobble that did not fit. It was like a heartbeat running down. "The outpost that sent the beacon is failing," Mira said at last. "If we wait, we may lose it. We can go gently. We can observe. We can ask the gate for permission. A long pause followed. The Orin, who took time to answer anything, answered first for once. "Let the Deathworlders try," the Orin elder said in a voice like leaves. "They have a way of waking sleeping things that does not break them." The convoy moved on. The outpost lay on the edge of a dim system, where the sun burned a tired red and the planets kept their distance. The station itself was old and narrow, a ring around a quiet moon, its metal skin dulled by dust and shade. Lights flickered on its rim like tiny lighthouses. The beacon pulsed through cracks where no doors had opened in a million years. The Lark ascending approached with careful feet. Drones flowed out of the ship like a school of fish. They carried sensors, translators, small arms of alloy that were made to hold, not to hurt. They tapped the station's old hull with gentle pings and sent back the echoes. Deep inside, something clicked, like an old lock thinking about waking. Mira sat in the forward lab with a cup of tea she forgot to drink. She studied the message again and again. Her team had layered its harmonics, mapped its rhythm, found false gaps that were actually keys to deeper patterns. It read like a diary, a flood of memories written in a script. "They were called the Ilari," she said to the bridge. "They had a way with machines that felt like music. They built the gate so that distant friends could come home quickly. They made the key from the voices of those friends. It looks for a tone more than a name, and it recognizes us?" Admiral Saleh asked. Mira hesitated. She watched the faint, failing wobble under the signal. It could have been a fault. It could have been a warning. "I think it recognizes a cousin," she said. "Not the same, but near enough." "Then we begin," the Admiral said. "No pressure. No force." The drones found a panel, then another, then a seam hidden under a seam. The station offered a path like a shy host showing guests into a forgotten parlor. Air inside was thin, cold, and very old, but not dead. The engineers fitted a clean atmosphere bubble that sat like a soap sphere on the metal skin. A walkway grew from the Lark ascending to the station's hatch, strong and light. A small team crossed. They moved like divers in a ruined temple, slow, respectful, alert. No one drew a weapon. No one had a weapon, not in the old sense. Their tools were lights and scanners, fabricators small enough to fit in a pocket, translators that could draw a picture from a scent. Inside the hatch, the station had no sharp corners. It curved like a seashell. Lines ran along the walls and sang in faint tones when the humans passed. The tones changed to match their steps. It felt like the station was learning their rhythm and testing it against memory. At the heart, they found the gate. It was not a door, not a circle, not anything that could fit into a simple shape. It was a room that folded into itself. A set of gently turning planes, a flower of metal and light. In its center floated a calm lens. The beacon noise came from that lens. It was the eye of a friend who was very tired. Mira pressed her palm to the translator pad and spoke in a steady voice. "We heard you," she said. "We came with care. We want to help you wake without fear." The gate answered with a long tone that tasted like rain on stone. The drones reported a steady rise in energy. Far beyond, the core races shifted in their ships uneasy. Admiral Saleh slowed her breathing. "Tell it who we are." Mira nodded. They had prepared for this long before the first antenna ever heard the first whisper. The human voice had many colors. It could be bright with joy and rough with sorrow, sharp with fear and soft with love. Mira drew a small arc with her hand and the translator sang. It sang not with one voice but with many. Infants' first cries, wind across wheat, choirs in a small church where the roof leaks, the hush in a library, the murmur of a mother to a sleeping child. It sang the sound of storms that end and the relief that follows. It sang human. The gate listened. The long tone bent. The wobble under the beacon steadied. Lights climbed the walls in slow spirals. The room warmed 1 degree, then 2. A soft field spread through the station, harmless as a warm blanket. The ancient systems drank power like thirsty mouths. Screens all over the fleet showed messages in the ALRE script. Translations scrolling in small, welcome cousin voices, the station said. "You are unlike, but you are kind. The gate is tired. It needs a hand." Mira smiled without meaning to. Admiral Saleh's knuckles lost their whiteness. The Orin Elder sent a small sound of approval. Even the Keth observer pod stopped its list of warnings. The station unfolded records, slow and gentle. It told of far friends who had gone away and not come back. It told of a watch left to sleep until they returned. It told of a promise. If none of us are left, let the next kind ones pass. The gate had tested many voices over long ages. It had waited for a tone that was close enough to home and carried a shape of care.